Hey there, everybody, what's going on? Jason Ryan here from iAnimate, and in this week's snippet, we're going to be talking about the power of the breakdowns. So what do I mean by the word breakdown? So many kind of definitions come across my way, like from 2D to CG, and usually what it means is sort of how you're going to get from key to key. Now, depending if you're doing like something naturalistic, the breakdown might be a little bit more subtle. So you don't actually see the keys, you're sort of kind of moving your way through the keys in a way that you don't actually see an actual pose to another pose. But in a more cartoony kind of fashion, you might see those poses even more, right? And then it's not just what the character's doing, it's how the character's doing it, right? So if you take Jim Carrey, for example, in like The Cable Guy or, Ace Ventura, the script might just say the character's supposed to sneak from here to here, or, quietly get from this point to this point. And he goes into this kind of like cartoony kind of way of walking. And that's sort of like his interpretation of the script. And that's what makes him hilariously funny, right? It's not just what he's doing, it's how he's actually doing it, right? So let's take this character here. I've just kind of drawn up a simple character that we'll try and break down the action on, right? So we've got a key from here to here. So let's say there's a, he's listening to his parents and say, okay, we're going out for dinner. You guys be good. And you're the big boy. You're going to take charge and, take care of your little brother here. And we have his little brother here in the background, right? And he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be like that. And then as soon as they leave, he's like, okay, let's go get the water guns or something like that, right? So how is this character going to get from this pose to this pose, right? And it could be like, if we just let that to the computer, so it could be just, we show in-betweens, previous and next. So it could be just as simple as going like right from there, like straight to there, right? Which would be probably the most boring breakdown in the world, right? But it would actually work, right? So you could actually see like, okay, so he's just going to go from there and his hand is going to come up, and it'll just kind of in between up into that, right? In a cartoony way, how could we make this a little bit more elaborate, more fantastic, more, more pronounced, let's say. And it's a way of like adding overlapping actions, like one thing leads another, so the character is not going to end in the same pose with all of the features landing at the exact same frame. So what we can do is break this down, right? So we can kind of go, okay, so from here, we delete this drawing here. And what we can say is like, okay, from here, maybe, and I'll turn off the next drawing so we can kind of see where we're going. Maybe he can go this way to go this way, right? So in other words, like his head can come up, come up this way, while his eyes maybe dart down, right? Could do this, right? And then like the other hand, could start to swing up this way. Right? Still kind of like in this pose, like maybe his hips are starting to move this way as his body's going this way. And you can start to see like, okay, now I'm starting to kind of get a little bit more of a sense of how the breakdown could actually make this a little bit more of an interesting action, right? So that's one way of doing it, right? So we could kind of go, okay, so up here, and then maybe we can go, maybe we can turn the head this way now, maybe with a little blink or something, get a little overlapping action, like where the head might drag a little bit while this arm is kind of coming through, right? Maybe that, like that. And then swinging up into there, right? While the other hand might just be starting to come up. Okay, so one way of doing it, right? And then depending on the window of time that you've got to do your transition will sort of dictate how fast it needs to be. So In other words, like the window of time I talk about is basically how long do we want to see this pose for, and how long do we want to see this pose for, right? On screen for your actual shot, right? So if it's like, okay, I need to see, like, let's say the shot is maybe 48 frames long, right? Just give ourselves a number there, right? So but this one would stay there from 1 to 13 with like maybe the head nodding or something like that. And then we want to see this pose here because he's got some dialogue. So maybe he's got to hit this pose by, I don't know, let's say 21 like to 48, right? Where he's like, go get the water guns, right? And then that might be sort of like the pose that he's going to hit for that, right? So then your window of time is like so that's basically 12 frames, right? And then here, you know, so we got like 21 like to 48, right? So there'll be keys after this. So you've really got 9 frames to play with, right? So that's like your window of time. So that tells you how fast we need to get from that pose to that pose.